Hello, I trust this message finds you well. We wanted to get a quick message out to kind of catch you up on everything that's been going on over the last couple of months with all the work that's been being completed by your FOP. In our last video message, we shared at the beginning of the year that we were in the process of setting up a FOP Management Committee meeting with the Chief and his staff. I'm pleased to share that we have completed that meeting, and in one of our past full regular business meetings, we were able to share extensive details from that. I did want to share with you a general list of the items and some of the main topics that were discussed in that meeting. The first and foremost was the issue of our decentralized fleet and our patrol vehicles, really all of our departmental vehicles, and how many we have and the need for those to be able to continue to remain decentralized and spread about so that we have those resources, including that customized, specialized emergency equipment available to our folks at all times. God forbid, whatever major incident is possible of occurring. Within that, we were able to identify also that the city has been able to purchase an extensive amount of vehicles to replace many of the operational vehicles within our fleet, but also some of our specialized vehicles as well for some of our specialized units. I want to share with you some of the numbers that we have received. These are on new vehicle purchases since 2020 by each year. And I think what you'll find is with all the work that we've been doing in terms of finding the dollars and the resources needed to be able to make it possible, we've been able to achieve some pretty significant outcomes. Beginning in calendar year 2020, IMPD was able to make a purchase of 165 police vehicles. And then beginning in 2021, that number drastically shot up to 354 vehicles. In 2022, we were able to purchase 300 more vehicles, and we are now approved and budgeted to purchase 306 vehicles in 2023. With that being said, that would bring the total amount of vehicles purchased since calendar year 2020 to 1,125 vehicles. I think any of you that have been around for a minute know that is a significant, huge accomplishment, and really has begun the process of completely rotating our fleet over. With this, though, we are in discussions about what those next model vehicles will start to look like. If you were not aware, Ford and Dodge both are in the process of terminating their sedan platforms for police vehicles, which means the department is now going through the evaluation process of which utility vehicle to convert to. Within the purchase this year and going into next year, we anticipate that there will be a couple of handfuls of utility vehicles that will also be purchased in an attempt to identify which platform would be the correct way to go. We do have a seat at that table, and we look forward to some updates on that moving forward. We also discussed the issue and the challenges revolving around staffing and the proper allocation of our staffing within the police department. It's no secret the police department is woefully understaffed. As of right now, we're running with about 1,500 officers available to staff all of our positions in the police department. That means that we are currently funded at 1,850, which shows that we're 350 officers short of what we're actually funded for. The good news in that, although we're short, is that we have the funding available, which is helping to make sure that we have some of the overtime dollars that we're drawing down upon to help backfill some of these vacancies and hopefully keep our levels at the appropriate minimum staffing numbers. I fully recognize that there are shifts, there are areas of the city that routinely, regularly are running at that shift minimum and often battling staying even at that shift minimum. Been able to speak to individual locations, chains of commands, and we've been able to work on those as they occur. We are currently working on a couple more areas, but I think all in all, we're doing well in terms of at least maintaining those minimum staffing levels with the overtime available. Again, if you've been around for at least 10 years, you know there have been times in our history where we just were short, had no additional dollars, there was no overtime, and we just ran short. So we'll continue working on that. In addition, we also discussed the need for more patrol rifles, as well as the training for those patrol rifles. Management completely agrees, and we're stepping through the process of just the logistics of getting that done. But 100 more patrol rifles have also been purchased by the city of Indianapolis to be available for officers who also complete that training. We also discussed the challenges, the ongoing challenges with data collection and the data collection challenges with Blue Team. We had a good, robust discussion on that topic. We had patrol officers who were able to be at the table and highlight some of the challenges that are consistently faced, as well as supervisors. And in that, I do believe we're going to be able to make some progress and some improvements on that front. And then the final thing that we discussed, which has been a point of interest for many of our members, is the idea and the need for examining what a good parental leave policy would be for the police department. As you know, we have a pretty extensive sick time available to our officers, but what we are talking about is specifically parental leave and how we can help make that happen. So we're continuing to work through that. I do anticipate that we will have a committee that will continue to work on that topic in conjunction with management, and I look forward to reporting on that in the near future. Again, detailed discussions on these points have occurred at your regular lodge business meetings for the membership. If you have not been at one of these meetings as of late, I strongly encourage you, make it a point to get to a lodge meeting. It's your FOP. Please get involved and come to hear what we have to share, but also to provide that feedback to us as well. Try as we might, hitting the roll calls, we get a lot of good information, but this helps folks get that information and be able to take it back to your shifts and your assignments. We've also completed our local FOP memorial, and we also had a strong contingent that participated in help making our National Law Enforcement Memorial possible in Washington, D.C. This year we added 443 names to the wall, and our entire Indianapolis and Indiana delegation played a significant role in making the logistics happen so that that ceremony could go off without a hitch and those families could have the proper tributes and honors made for their officer and their family. And I'm very pleased with the work that was done. If you interact with any of the folks who participated in that, please extend a good, solid thank you to them as well. We also just recently completed our Indiana State FOP conference, which was very important for our local delegates to be able to participate in the business of the state lodge, in which nearly 14,000 members are represented. With that, we are also able to provide input and information related to our legislative committee and the work we wish for them to be able to take upon themselves going into the next legislative session. That's important because they will already be engaging in the summer study committees that are already scheduled through the Indiana State Legislature. So we'll have more to report as we move into next legislative session. Final thing I want to discuss is the most recent thing, which was the mayor's announcement that occurred toward the end of May going into June. You all know by now that the mayor's announcement included the step of rolling in hiring bonuses into the starting salaries of year 1 and 2 officers. While that didn't necessarily cost the agency more money, it was the step of rolling it into the base pay, which allowed them to artificially raise the starting pay for the police department. It did place the IMPD back into some of the top levels for starting pay, allowing us to remain competitive with other agencies. But the one thing that it did create, which the city administration has acknowledged, is that it also artificially compressed all of the salary ranges across the board from starting all the way up. The good news is they're well aware of that. We had very strong discussions about that. That occurred when they also shared with us that they were going to be announcing the retention bonuses. I think it's safe to say that while any increases or bonuses are appreciated, I think the overall overwhelming consensus is that that level seemed to be a little too little, a little too late. And so we're continuing to have discussions about any other areas of improvement for that before the end of this year, but it obviously raises very strong discussions about the next contractual period and the next contract negotiations. The one thing that I can say is that although we received this information literally just about 45 minutes before the announcement was made, it was very clear that this administration recognizes that the next contract negotiations will be vitally important, and there will be significant discussions on how we really respond and stay competitive, especially in light of the recent Indiana State Police pay raises across the board. I also want to share that we do applaud the steps that were announced by the mayor, in which for the first time in probably 4 years, we publicly heard him acknowledge the revolving door of criminal justice in Marion County and the steps that he was taking to hire city prosecutors to be deputized at the U.S. Attorney's Office so that they could bypass the local revolving door of criminal justice and have a direct pipeline for our officers and detectives to file cases at the federal level. While we applaud that, I think it still highlights the issue that we have this broken system of criminal justice in Marion County, and that still needs to be addressed and corrected. I do wish to share this. I issued a very strongly worded public statement just a few days back on June the 14th in response to the second part of the mayor's announcements, which revolved around additional gun control measures that he was calling for the Indianapolis City County Council to invoke. The statement is below this video message on the website. I strongly encourage you to read it in its entirety. It's lengthy and it's detailed, but that's for purpose of preserving the record as we move forward. The one thing that was made clear in that statement was that our law enforcement officers could not get behind steps that, one, conflicted with existing state law, and two, could not be invoked based on that law and the Constitution. So as a result of that, we made very clear where we stood. However, that wasn't just a statement that it was put out just by me in response to that. We sought input from our membership at our last regular business meeting. There was a unanimous vote to issue a position of opposition to those steps. We also received a unanimous vote from our Retired Police Officers Association, who also took the same position of opposition. And then we were able to meet with our Indiana Legislative Committee at the state conference, as I shared with you, who also concurred with that position. And then as a result, the entire Indiana State FOP conference delegation voted unanimously to stand in opposition to those proposals. That being the voice of nearly 14,000 officers across the state of Indiana, because they and we recognize the impacts that confusion that's created can have for all of our officers across the state, in addition to our residents, our law-abiding residents, who are trying to have consistency in their laws. With that being said, it still leaves this issue that the main area of focus needs to be strong accountability and intervention and arrest and convictions for those who are illegally using firearms. So again, we have called upon the Marion County prosecutor to publicly release the numbers of arrests that are completed by IMPD officers for weapons charges, how many of those are actually filed, and then of the ones filed, what is the ultimate outcome in terms of plea bargains, dismissals, and or convictions. To date, there still has been no public release of those numbers. I think all of you as members would recognize that the public would quickly see what our officers know, which is that oftentimes those weapons charges are either dismissed or part of a sweetheart plea deal in which little or no jail time is provided. So with that, we will stay at it. That's a lot of information, but we wanted to make sure that you're up to speed and up to date on everything that's been going on. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Also come to one of your lodge, upcoming lodge meetings. And then as always, I hope to see you at a roll call soon. Stay safe and keep looking up.